It may seem like everything is fine, like life has moved on, like the past has been left where it belongs, but it hasn't. The new conversations lack the same depth. The hugs, no matter how genuine, don't warm the heart in the same way. There's always a space that no one can fill. The truth is, no matter how hard they try to move on, there's something that still calls out for what was real. It has a name, a face, a history, and it hasn't left. So many times it has been said that it was the end. So many attempts to sever ties, to pretend it no longer mattered, but the feeling never went away. It stayed quiet, but present, asleep, but intact. Here it's easy to say it's over, harder to convince the heart, because certain connections don't break, they endure even when everything seems lost, and no matter how the days pass, the longing remains, the memory persists, the choice, even if unspoken, remains the same. The conversations continue, the days go by, new stories begin. But deep down, there's always something out of place, an absence that won't settle, a name that still weighs on the chest even when it's not spoken, and no matter how hard one tries to deny it, it still hurts. There is no crueler absence than the one that is hidden, the one that disguises itself with routine, with haste, with it doesn't matter, but it returns. It always returns. In details that no one sees, in songs that no one hears, in dreams that should not happen anymore. There have been many attempts to move on, to delete old messages, to silence the name in notifications, to pretend that nothing is expected anymore. But all it takes is a moment of silence, and everything comes rushing back. No one talks about it out loud, because to admit it would be to give in. And giving in means returning to the point where everything started to hurt. But there exists a feeling that withstands time, logic, and pride. That feeling remains. It doesn't matter how many smiles are forced in front of new people. Nothing compares to what was felt there with that person, at that time, with that intensity. It's as if the body moved on, but the soul remained trapped in gestures that are never repeated, trapped in glances that said everything, even when nothing was said, trapped in something that can't be explained, yet also doesn't disappear. Many think that forgetting is a choice, that you just have to want it. But there are loves that don't respond to commands. They don't take orders. They don't die just because it would be easier to bury them. There are feelings that refuse to go away, even when everything suggests they should have left a long time ago. And when you try to ignore them, they grow stronger. They manifest as memories, chills, emptiness, in unanswered questions, in what-ifs that no one admits, but linger in the depths of every thought. Why is this feeling still here? Why does it insist on staying? Maybe it's because not everything has been said, or because what was lived was too real to be forgotten, or simply because this story is not over yet, even if it seems that way. And while the world spins and everything changes around, inside something remains untouched, unwritten, insistent. It's hard to explain this kind of connection. It's not dependence, it's not neediness, it's presence, even in absence, even in silence, even after everything. It may seem like weakness, but it's not. It's the courage to feel, even when feeling hurts. It's accepting that some people don't just pass by, because they are not temporary. They are marks, definitive. It's not about reliving the past. It's about admitting that the past has never stopped breathing here inside. How many times has it been necessary to say it's over to others? How many times has it been necessary to pretend disinterest, indifference, lightness? But when no one is around, when the night weighs heavy, when memory speaks louder than pride, everything comes to the surface again. And even if new routines take over the days, even if new voices try to fill that space, feelings can't be replaced. Certain people remain present, even when they're far away, even when they've changed, even in silence. Because it's not about physical presence. It's about something that's been etched in the body, in the memory, in the essence. It's unbearable to admit that it still matters. But denial no longer makes sense. Those who feel know. They know what it's like to hold a name in their heart like it's a secret. They know what it's like to hide from themselves to avoid facing what still lives there. They know what it's like to look ahead, yet carry someone in the rearview mirror every single day. It's pointless to say it's in the past, What's gone doesn't grip the heart anymore. It doesn't return in dreams, it doesn't show up in the reflections of others. This feeling, no matter how much it's denied, and still pulses, not with the same euphoria as before, but with a steady, firm, almost serene presence, as if there's no more rush, but no end in sight either. And the worst part of all is that no matter how much one fights, no matter how much one pretends, the truth reveals itself in the details. It's in the eyes that look away when someone speaks the name. It's in the song that changes without explanation. It's in the anxiety when something brings back memories of that time. It's in everything one tries to avoid, and that remains there. It's not weakness to continue feeling. Weakness would be pretending that it never existed. Weakness would be running away from something that is still alive, and it is. Even if the mouth doesn't say it, even if the mind denies it, even as the days go by, it is present, intense, silent, real, and the most frightening part is knowing that nothing was enough to erase it. Not time, not distance, not silence. Because when it's real, it doesn't disappear, it remains. Even when there is silence, even when the whole world demands movement, even when everything seems more logical without it. But logic is not a cure, and what was lived with intensity doesn't dismantle as if it were just any story. That stays inside, without warning, without permission, without a way out. And the cruelest part of all is that no one else sees it, no one else notices. Because the world demands overcoming, detachment, urgency, as if feeling has a deadline, as if what hurt must simply become a phase. But there are pains that don't accept this kind of pressure. There are feelings that remain whole, even after everything has been broken. It's a knot in the chest that won't come undone. It's a question that has never been answered. It's an echo that keeps coming back, even when everything should already be silent. It doesn't matter how many times the mind repeats, "It's over." The heart insists on "not yet." It's still there, it still matters, it still hurts because it still lives. And there are days when everything seems under control. You take a deep breath, you occupy your mind, you disguise your gaze, but just a scent, a random phrase, a silly memory, and everything returns. With force, with hunger, with thirst for presence. It's not a choice, it never was. This feeling doesn't feed on reason, it feeds on memory, on sensation, on everything that was lived intensely and left unfinished. And then the burning doubt arises. What if this feeling never goes away? What if time doesn't heal, only calms? What if what was felt then is the highest point the heart has ever reached? What if nothing else comes close because there's a difference between moving on and forgetting? And that difference hurts in silence. Moving on is not the same as erasing. Accepting is not the same as stopping the feeling. And no matter how much the world demands lightness, some stories are too heavy to pretend they weren't real. It's not about wanting to go back, it's about not being able to completely leave. It's about everything that was kept without the chance to be lived again. And maybe it never will be. Maybe what persists is not a bridge, but a sanctuary, an inner space where everything that was too intense to end is stored. Everything that left a deep mark too profound to be replaced. There is no refuge for this kind of memory. There is no antidote. The attempt to ignore only delays the inevitable. It still matters. It still pulses. It is still here. It's a feeling that doesn't rely on physical presence. It thrives on depth. And depth doesn't fade away with distraction. Sometimes all that's left is living with what remains, pretending it doesn't weigh heavy, pretending it doesn't cut through the days, pretending life has moved on unchanged. But the truth screams in silence. Some stories don't end. They just stop being told aloud, and this is one of them. A story that hasn't found a period, that lives in the pauses, in the silences, in the long breaks between one memory and another. A story that wasn't written to the end but insists on being read, page by page, from back to front, from inside out. And those who feel it know, it's impossible to uproot something that has made a home in the soul. They say time heals, but time doesn't heal what hasn't been closed. It simply teaches the pain to disguise itself better. It lingers there, like a cold ember. It doesn't burn on the outside but stays alive on the inside. And what hurts the most is not what was, It's what could have been, what was interrupted, what was left unsaid, what didn't get a chance to prove itself once more. This absence, so tangible, so repetitive, becomes a kind of bitter companion. You can't talk to it, but it's there all the time, in the skin, in the chest, in the eyes that try not to stray when someone brings it up. And then one day, without warning, everything collapses. It could be hearing a familiar voice, or bumping into a place where it all began, or simply recalling the way that person said your name, and the armor falls away. For a second, sometimes two, and what was contained spills over. You can't hide when the emotion overflows. You can hold it in for days, weeks, even months. But it comes. It always comes. The moment when everything explodes inside. And at that point, there's no more pretending. There's no more protecting yourself with ready-made phrases, easy smiles, feigned indifference. The truth hits hard. There's still love. There's still desire. There's still something that has never left. And in this moment, something changes. Not on the outside, but on the inside. Because it's no longer about fighting against the feeling. It's about accepting that it's there. Whole, raw, unresolved. It's not about rekindling. It's not about waiting. It's about recognition. About allowing it to exist, even in silence, even if it's just for oneself. Because pretending you don't feel is a kind of self-neglect, and it has hurt too much to be left once before. You can't keep doing this to yourself. So you pause, take a deep breath, and admit, even if without words, yes, it still matters. Yes, it still hurts. Yes, it still exists. And maybe, just maybe, accepting this is the first step to stop suffering in silence. Because carrying something so deep, nameless, without permission, without direction, is exhausting. So maybe there's no need to explain, no need to justify, no need to seek a solution. Maybe all that's left is simply to feel, yes. Let it hurt, whatever it hurts. Even if the other person never knows. Even if no one understands. Because certain truths were not meant to be shouted. They were meant to be felt. Until the heart is ready. To hold, to let go, or who knows, to begin anew. Or simply to let exist. Because there are feelings that were not made to be in the spotlight. They were made to exist in silence. Like a flame that doesn't go out but doesn't spread either. It burns there, discreet, continuous, alive. And maybe the greatest weight isn't love itself, but what hasn't been said, what has been suffocated, what has been felt in secret, in the pauses between one "I'm fine" and another. Because while you pretend to be in control, the heart screams inside, not out of need but out of truth. And the truth is this: there's still a name that hasn't left the skin. There's still a memory that hasn't been digested. There's still a desire that had nowhere to rest. Absence transforms into a ritual. You wake up with it, you sleep with it, you coexist with her like one learns to live with chronic pain. It doesn't go away, you just learn to breathe over it. Sometimes it's in the middle of some random conversation, at that exact second when you're distracted, and that memory resurfaces, uninvited. It invades, it paralyzes, and it stays. Your heart races. Your mind gets lost for a moment. Everything gets jumbled. Everything returns. Because certain people don't truly leave. They leave parts of themselves in those they loved, and carrying them becomes inevitable. It's not a choice, it never was. It's like trying to free yourself from something that's already a part of who you are. As if you had to amputate a piece of your soul just to pretend that life moved on. And life does move on, but never in the same way, never with the same devotion, never with the same innocence of someone who believed that certain stories would be eternal. Loss teaches silence, it teaches restraint, it teaches to smile on the outside while the eyes still cry on the inside. And it's useless to say that you've moved on. Because if you had, your body wouldn't shudder at the sound of their name. Your heart wouldn't betray calm gestures. Your chest wouldn't implode on random nights with no clear trigger. It still hurts, and the silent pain is the most exhausting, because you don't talk about it. You don't complain. You don't explain. It simply is. Present when everyone thinks you've already gotten over it. Present when you try to make space for other stories. present when you pretend that the past wasn't so deep, but it was. It was deep enough to leave cracks, invisible scars, gaps through which longing still escapes. And then comes that cruel thought. Does this person feel it too? Does their heart ever tighten without reason? Is there a memory there too? Or has everything turned to dust? Questions that will never be answered. And maybe that's what hurts the most. The not knowing, the uncertainty, carrying it all alone without any glance from the other side that confirms, I didn't completely let you go either. But the absence of a response speaks volumes. It says that despite everything, the feeling remained, even without a reply, even without reciprocation, even without closure. And then you learn something strange, brutal, and transformative. That there are loves that don't need a presence to stay alive. That there are stories that, even without an ending, remain whole. And that the real weight isn't in having lost someone, it's in never having stopped feeling. If this feeling resonated with you, share it with those who need to hear it. Comment on what you felt, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This keeps this truth alive in more hearts.